All right, we're here with some award-winning filmmakers just after the TIFF Awards. Who are we with for the audience at home?
Hi, my name is Vinay.
My name is Aman.
I'm the director. He's the cinematographer on a feature documentary called While We Watched. It's about journalism in today's times.
Cool. So it's a feature documentary.
Yes.
Very cool. And where does it take place?
It takes place in New Delhi, India. I started this film 4 years ago because I was watching TV news and it was driving me insane.
Really?
It made me feel terribly lonely and hopeless. So I decided to make a film that could possibly fix the news and make everybody hopeful all over again, which is a tall ambition.
Yeah, I was going to say, fix the news. I'm going to do it.
But that's right. It's a foolish ambition, but I guess we're all fools.
You got to aim high, otherwise, I know there's some expression like aim for the stars. At least you might not reach them, but at least you'll never come up with a handful of mud, something like that. So
I completely agree with that. There is another version of that I say that you have to run really hard, and at the end you'll win some race. So yeah.
Exactly. Or Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. We could go all day with little sayings like that, but clearly you've done well. You won the best documentary. That's amazing.
Yeah, we won the Amplify Award. It's very, very exciting for us. When I wasn't even sure when I was making the film if there would be a film.
Yeah.
So out of all of that intense loneliness and anxiety to get an award, I'm really happy. Yeah.
I feel intense anxiety and loneliness all the time myself. I should start making a documentary. I didn't realize that was the answer. But maybe interviewing people is the answer. Is this your first time in Toronto and at TIFF?
Yes, this is my first. This is my first time. Vinay's fifth time.
Oh, fifth time. So you're an old hand at this, but that's nice that you brought your cinematographer.
I brought him because I keep telling everybody he's worked in literally every department in the film.
Okay, so he's not just the cinematographer.
Yeah,
he's the caterer.
Yeah, so he's not just the caterer. He's also 10 years younger than me and far more talented than I am. So my ambition is to make sure that I be nice to him because in the future he's going to be the bigger artist.
Yeah.
So at least he'll hire me then.
All right, I'm done with you. I'm going to talk to him now. No, I'm just kidding, sort of. Well, it's exciting. And did you achieve the goal of changing the news? Like, what's the message of the film? Like, are you just what was the upsetting you about the news?
I mean, so there is currently a news is a theater of revenge.
Yeah.
It's always somebody saying that we need to avenge some wrong that has been done.
Yeah.
And I feel like that essentially reduces us to people who are deeply vengeful, full of vengeance.
Yeah.
That's not me.
No.
But I have absolutely no way to tell the news that this is not how I need the news done in my country, and even across the world. So the challenge is how do you counter that sort of style with something better? And my ambition is that we need to have a larger dialogue around frameworks. What is the framework of knowledge? What is the framework of public information that we have? How do we make sure that our news is better? We need more regulations. I have a couple of ideas how we can do this. But the idea is, when you decide to... When I said that I'm going to try and fix the news, I of course knew I can't do it myself. Yeah. And it's not like I'm saying something that is massively revelatory to people, right? But we're all trying to throw the stone at this very, very large beast ahead of us.
Yeah. All we can do is what we can do. You can do your little part, and if nobody does anything, nothing gets done, but you got to start somewhere.
And somehow we won an award today.
Yeah.
That means the message is resonating.
Yeah, for sure.
That means what we are going for is... It has an audience out there.
Yeah.
This dialogue, many more people need to think about it, contribute it, write about it, talk about it. How do we make our news better? How do we make our public information system better?
Is it the idea that the news is always looking for conflict and pitting people against each other? It's not talking about people who are doing good things or what we have in common?
I don't have a problem with people looking for conflict or pitting people against each other. My ambition is that when you pit two people against each other, what is the framework of dialogue between them? Is it going to be two people yelling at each other, making claims? How do you understand facts? How do you understand bias? What's a good bias? What's a bad bias? For example, I have a bias towards non-violence. When I go on the news, will you pit me against somebody who has a bias for violence and say that both of them deserve equal time? These are conversations that we need to have. we need to be able to establish a framework. We need to be able to establish a framework for the safekeeping of journalism, because currently whatever people say is their own fact. We are living in a post-fact world, which is eroding our social fabric. As for example, if you see with the Capitol Hill riots, wherein people felt entitled enough to go in the Capitol Hill building and say that we are going to do whatever we feel like doing. So it's coming for journalists across the world, this tide of misinformation and what it does to people, and we need to come up with better systems.
Cool. Yeah, even myself, I've sort of used to trust the news years ago, and then I've just started realizing in the past few years, like, wait a minute, there's a lot of bias, like no matter what the station is, and I sort of feel like I've got to look at all the networks and then try to figure out what's going on my own and try to find things they're leaving out.
So that's a framework, right? Yeah. That's a framework you have. You've come up with a framework wherein you go like, okay, I need to take information from multiple sources and then apply some of my own jurisdiction on this and rigor, which is a great framework to start with, right? But there has to be, we need a wider dialogue, especially for the younger people in our country and across the world. You can't imagine the impact of news right now on 8-year-olds, on 15-year-olds, because this is the only thing that they have seen. Shouting anchors is the only dialogue that they're watching via television. So we need to course correct and reflect urgently.
Yeah, because I used to, like, I've always been very liberal. I've been the Green Party environmentalist guy. I assumed, okay, CNN is the truth, and I was afraid of Fox News. Like, that's lies. But then when I saw, I was like, they're saying a lot of things about Donald Trump. I'm like, well, a lot of that isn't true. And I started looking into it, and then I started watching Fox. I'm like, oh, I don't agree with everything, but at least I see where they're coming from. Yeah. And then I looked at CNN, and again, I'm like, it's obviously extremely biased. And they even admit it. Like, their goal is to get rid of Trump, and they leave out information that's not true, or they leave out true information. They'll just flat out lie. And I'm like, okay, so and a lot of people don't have the critical ability to sort of sift through this stuff and figure out what's actually going on.
I think what's important is that even though people may be on different sides of the political argument, right? You can be pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro this government, anti that leader. Frameworks. Like how is it that a news organization can ensure that the news it's putting out is truly representative of the opinions out there, of the diverse opinions within its own newsrooms, right? Yes, there is a bias, and very often you will encounter that bias. Is there a way that you can educate your own audiences about biases, and like I said, good bias and bad bias? So that's what I'm talking about, framework. It's not, for as long as we keep talking about individuals, the problems, the anchors, the stations, we'll be focusing on one.
Right, that's the small story that's not meaningful.
And sooner than later, people will falter. So that doesn't, it's important, but for me, I am not aspiring for that dialogue. I am constantly asking people, how do we make our news better? What are the ground rules? Can we agree on any ground rule? If you're going to say there are no rules, then we will have to suffer the consequences of no rules.
All right, well, that's very profound, and I'm glad it's catching on. And how did your cinematographer specifically help? Like, you got lots of, you weren't just using archival footage of the news, you were out filming your own stuff?
I mean, he's very, very good in terms of just capturing a certain mood and building a certain relationship with people over. Docs are a very long process. So it requires a lot of interpersonal relationships to be able to get access. But besides that, his craft of capturing people and looking at them the way cinema does is fantastic. Whenever I see the stuff that he shot, I feel like this is cinema. I feel like this is how I watch it in the movies. And now I can feel what the character is going through on the screen when I see the stuff that he's watched. So I was very excited to collaborate with him for that reason.
That's great.
And
because everybody can shoot with an iPhone now, but it doesn't make it an exciting movie to watch. It doesn't film.
Precisely.
So now we're getting your message out, but it's also feeling like a blockbuster movie kind of thing.
Let's hope.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And it was all shot in India, like in your town? Wow, that's great. I can't wait to see it, and hopefully I can come help you guys with films in India at some point. And are you taking this around other festivals now?
It's playing at Busan next month, and then a couple of other festivals which they haven't announced, so I can't say yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm planning to. I had so much fun at TIFF. I want to start traveling around, so hopefully I'll get to talk to you at another festival, and you'll win more awards. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.